Welcome back to My Troubles Chronic, but I'm iconic. Today we're embarking on a journey into the boundless realm of storytelling and its profound capacity to heal and inspire, as well as transform. Picture this, a world where the pages of a book are not merely ink on paper, but gateways to understanding, empathy, and personal growth. In this digital age, where screens often dominate our attention, it's easy to overlook the timeless magic found within the covers of a well-worn book. But fear not. For today, we venture beyond the surface of literature into a realm where stories become our allies in the pursuit of healing and self-discovery. Our guide on this odyssey is none other than Elaine Bousfield, the visionary founder of ZunTold, an organization at the forefront of the evolutionary approach to mental health bibliotherapy. Through ZunTold, Elaine and her team of bibliotherapists weave narratives into the fabric of counselling sessions, offering personalised reading prescriptions tailored to each individual's unique journey. It's a fusion of psychology and storytelling, where characters leap off the page to walk alongside those seeking solace and insight. So, whether you are navigating the labyrinth of your own emotions, seeking refuge from life's storms, or simply curious about the transformative potential of literature, buckle up and prepare to be captivated. Our adventure into the heart of bibliotherapy begins now. So before we begin, make sure you like, comment, and subscribe, as it allows us to continue doing our work and creating a meaningful impact in today's world. So grab a cup of tea, get cozy, and let's get started. Can you share with us the inspiration behind the founding of ZunTold and how the idea of bibliotherapy came to life?
Yes, hi, Rosmi. Happy to do that. Oh, okay. So it was a gradual story, really, that was kind of percolating, like these things do in the back of my mind for a while, and then it all came together in a big burst, a big bang, if you like. So behind the scenes, if I talk about the percolation bit, is so I've been working in children, young people, and I've been working in mental health, to be honest with you, all of my adult life in some shape or form, whether that be as a community worker and then later as a counsellor. And then sort of like in about 2000, I started thinking about the role that the internet could play in making services more accessible. So that and I set up Zen Zone, we developed Couth, and that was the beginning of my journey. So, but throughout all of that time, I've always written for my own self. I've always done writing, and I've always read a lot. And always as a child, I used to escape in books. I loved stories. I loved storytelling. I loved story writing. I used to like writing stories as a little girl. And, and always found writing an incredible thing to do. So that's always been in the background anyway in my personal life. And I just got thinking about I was aware from research, for reading I'd done, that that young people in particular, but adults as well, but young people more than people would think, actually, if you look at the research, really like writing stories, really like writing, and although it's young people's reading has gone down over the last few years, still quite a proportion of young people do like to read. And so I kind of knew that anyway. And I was beginning to think about my new project. I was beginning to think about what I wanted to do. I'd started publishing. So I set up a publishing company in 2016, didn't do anything with it for 2 years. I kind of did lots of research around the publishing industry. And then in 2018, the back end of 2018, we started publishing books, and we focused on fiction that had a kind of a map of resilience in it, or an emotional journey that the character went on. To be honest, all good literature does this, but an emotional journey that the character went on, or there were themes in it like racism or community violence, or there were things, life challenges that the character had to face, either within their environment or between interpersonal with another character. And we were looking for fiction that kind of could tell a story and that could support our readers in some way. So I was already beginning to think about publishing books that had a bibliotherapeutic aspect to them. And then I read this amazing book in 2019. I was on holiday and I read this amazing book by Professor Keith Oatley, who is a psychologist who works at the University of Toronto. And he wrote this really good book called Such Stuff as Dreams, The Psychology of Fiction. And it was while I was reading that book, I thought, I know how to bring this all together. So I started to think about developing a bibliotherapy service. And of course, my go-to place is always, how do we make that a digital space? As well as it being available face-to-face, how do we make that a digital space? So I started thinking about digital bibliotherapy. And of course, one of the there's a lot of problems with the internet. There's a lot of problems with the way that young people have been, the way that social media has dominated young people's lives. There is a problem. There is a real problem, I think, that we as a culture we need to kind of sort out. But the one good thing about the internet is that it can make things really accessible for people, no matter where they live or no matter where they are. And I knew that books on prescription has been something that's been around for a long time in the NHS, but it's really sporadic. It's not everywhere. It's a postcode lottery, and not many people know about it. It's still something that kind of really needs more emphasis and more growth. And I thought, well, what we could do with ZunTold is we could take our books and we could build a digital bibliotherapy service. And so that's what we're doing. That was the inspiration. So it was kind of a mixture of past knowledge. And then, of course, you read something where you think you have an aha moment. And I guess my aha moment was in the summer of 2019 when I was reading this book, Such Stuff as Dreams, by Professor Keith Oatley. That's a long answer to your question. I'm sorry if it was very boring.
No, it's absolutely fine. And I do, like, when I was at home, which was, a highly abusive environment, I remember I would lose so much sleep, but I didn't realize that I was always reading. And I read each book multiple times, cover to cover. And it was like I was transported in a different place. I was so paranoid at night, but because of my mother's brothers. And I was like, but I was like, that paranoia was the kind of forgotten for a moment, because whilst I was reading this book, I was just transported into a different world.
Yes, yeah, and I think that's what reading does for you. If you can get, some children and young people struggle to read, and that's not often not their fault. It's because we've not found the right format for them, or we've not given them the tools they need to read. But I think that's what, as a medium, as an artistic medium, I think that's one thing books do more than any other medium. Maybe music is another example, but it completely and utterly can take you to a totally different place. And of course, what it can show you is that there are other possibilities than your current world that you're living in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And, things are and hours will go by and you wouldn't even notice. And it's amazing.
Yeah.
For those unfamiliar with bibliotherapy, how would you explain how bibliotherapy is and how it differs from traditional forms of therapy?
Okay. So bibliotherapy is used in different ways. So some people use bibliotherapy in an educational setting. So they use it as a way of getting kids to talk about books, analyze texts, think about themselves, to help them get connected, if you like, to storytelling and to stories. So it's used in educational settings as well as kind of clinical or counselling settings. So in the counselling setting, bibliotherapy is a creative arts therapy, really. So it sits within the same sort of, I suppose it's different from, but if you think about the school, it will sit in the same place as maybe art therapy does, or sort of sound play does or play therapy does. Bibliotherapy is a creative arts therapy. And when the way it differs is that in a traditional counselling setting, you have two people in the room. You have your therapist and you have your client. In a bibliotherapeutic setting, there's a third element, and that third element is literature. That third element is a story, and that might be a poem, it might be a novel, it might be an extract from a novel, or it might be something that the young person's written themselves. But there's a piece of writing, it might be a spoken poem. It doesn't always have to be words, but there's a piece of text, something that you use as a springboard to express things that might be difficult to say, or share things that might be difficult to share, or to look at things in a completely reframing way. So you might reframe your whole experience by looking at it in the third person, or by reading about something that a character's been through that you can resonate with, because it allows you to kind of almost come out of yourself for a bit and talk about it externally. And for some people, that opens doors, that allows them to begin to learn to talk about themselves, or it just helps them amplify things that they've talked about in therapy. So it differs from traditional counselling because in that, like I said, it's a piece of literature that you've got in the room with you. It becomes a therapy tool. It becomes part of the therapy, part of the conversation. So if you think about it, if we think about why people come to counselling, why people come to therapy, they often come because they're hurting and because they're confused and because things have gone on and they're trying to make sense of it. They're trying to process something difficult, or they're trying to make sense of things. But essentially, people come to counselling to tell their story. That's why they come. They want to come to tell their story, or to figure out their story, and to be heard and have it witnessed, have it fed back to them. And in a sense, bibliotherapy does that. It's storytelling. It's a way of telling a story or sharing a story that's already been written by somebody else, and saying, what can I learn from that? How can that help me? Yeah. So, and yeah, a lot of therapists will use it in that way.
What criteria do your bibliotherapists use to select stories for clients, and how do they ensure that the recommendations are personalized and effective?
Yeah, that is the fundamental golden question. And it's something we've thought about a lot. So if you think about from whenever we publish something, we use the 6 stages of bibliotherapy to help us analyze a text and think, could this book be used for bibliotherapeutic purposes? Now, the thing is, all writing can be used. There's no, in a way, every good piece of literature has got stuff in it that can be used. So it doesn't have to be like an issue-based story. It can have, it can just be something that the character is going through. So to go back to your question, how do you pick something for your client? Well, we do it in 2 ways, really. We start with looking at what are the themes in this particular piece of writing? What are the life themes? What themes come out of this story? And then we look at things like life challenges. What challenges has the character gone through? What challenges has the character faced in this story? And what lessons has the character learned in this story to help them grow as a person, or to help them resolve a conflict, or to help them find a solution to the problem that the story opens with? So we start there. So we look at things like themes, life challenges, and we kind of make notes we make quite detailed notes on those. And then we look at the other parts of bibliotherapy, because bibliotherapy it's not just about the content, it's about the language itself, and it's about what it inspires in people. So, because one of the first things that you're trying to do with bibliotherapy is you're trying to build in your reader or in the young person you're working with therapeutically, you're trying to create a capacity in them to respond to the text. So it's like, is the language, is the language, is the language kind of simple, plain? Is it flowery language? Is it descriptive? Does it have a musical? What's the rhythm of the words? What's the rhythm like? Because all of that matters as well. There's no point picking a story for a young person who finds who's a concrete thinker, who might find kind of flowery language or descriptive language difficult to connect with. So you'll try to choose books that are more contemporary, that are more urban, that are more kind of plain, that have got a kind of a much more kind of shorter rhythm to it, not over long sentences. So, you're trying to think, okay, what's this young person been through? What issues have they dealt with? And how could that help? Could this book help them? Is there some similarities there? Did that character learn something that our young person's struggling with? Could it really support them with that? But also, how is the book written? How is it written? Is it going to appeal to them? And of course, one of the other things we do with our counsellors when we run our bibliotherapy courses, we also we did some work about a couple of years ago with a lovely speech and language therapist. You've also got to counsellors have also got to have an understanding of how children learn to read and the various kind of what they call the blank stages, it's a kind of a model they use to kind of help you work out whether you're working at level 1 or level 4 in terms of the blank system. So, when children, very small children, first learning to read or learning to construct a story, they have to learn about sequencing and patterns. And it's about trying to choose a book that's at that right kind of level. And we do that through the platform. We do that through an assessment tool we use through the platform. But the counsellors, once they start working with the young person, will also choose books as well. So they will choose books once they get to know the young person. Yeah. So that's how we do it. There's there's about 30 different bibliotherapeutic steps, because we also build all our exercises and activities around the bibliotherapy steps as well. So, yes.
Is there any moments or memorable success stories or moments that you've seen the profound impact of bibliotherapy on someone's life?
Yeah, I mean, we kind of we've just started running our service for young people in Knowsley. It's really lovely working with Knowsley. They're a really exciting local authority. They very innovative, and they like to. I've worked with them for many years. They'd like to try new things, and so we're running a service with young people there. We've been going like 1 month, and we've already begun to see young people really enjoying the books. But we've done some work prior to that with adults, and with adults who have had quite long-term and enduring challenges with their mental health and physical health. And we've had such amazing feedback. I mean, amazing feedback. So there's one client in particular who she hadn't been outside the house for 20 years and just found talking with a therapist and looking at the books and doing her own writing incredibly liberating. And another young person we work with who had tried all sorts of different sort of therapies, had tried CBT, but had found it great, helpful, but a little bit kind of very, very cognitive. And what she was looking for a way to connect with her imagination, I suppose. And I mean, lovely feedback, really lovely feedback. Like this platform has literally saved my life, or, working with you, talking to a therapist has really helped me see things differently. And I now writing my words down in black and white helps me see them more clearly. Being able to talk about my experience in the third person, I found it really useful. People just really lovely feedback. Yeah, I mean, we've got several case studies of people that have given really wonderful feedback on the program and found it really helpful. Yeah, so I think it's been, I mean, just literally this week, in fact, we had a new young person sign up to the platform, and she's almost completed one of the novels on the platform and has found it really inspiring. Yeah, really inspiring. Because that's what you want good literature to do. You want stories to inspire people, like you were saying earlier, to help you take you out of your situation and think, actually, life can be different, life could be different. Yeah. So
Is there any like challenges you've encountered while promoting the concept of bibliotherapy, and how have you addressed them?
well, we're really new to this, Royce. Me. I mean, this is not we've been going, the service hasn't been going very long. So we're kind of finding our feet with it as well. Are there any challenges? The biggest challenge is I think that many people are frightened of reading and frightened of books, or don't feel comfortable with them. So one of the things that we have to do is we have to make sure that content that we print, because we publish in print as well. We big believers in print, but things that we kind of publish have to be written in ways that kind of fit different people's skills, different people's reading skills. So one of the challenges is that people think that some people sadly think that books don't have much of a role to play in today's society, and they think everything, they just want to scroll on their phones, or they want to use social media, they want to use TikTok. So I guess one of our missions, if you like, is to try to kind of get across to people, that to commissioners, but also to young people we work with and to adults we work with, that actually reading is a skill that will open doors in your mind and will give you access to a better life. It can't be more dramatic than that, really. So, for example, the University of Oxford did this big piece of research on reading, and what showed was that reading is the biggest predictor of social mobility, bigger than a parent, more influential than a parent's socioeconomic status, background, anything. That if you can give kids the tools to read, you will enhance their ability to do better in life, not just economically, but mentally as well, and physically. That there's huge links between being able to read and being able to, because it gives you the tools to think for yourself, and it gives you the tools to imagine, and it gives you the tools to be creative. And actually, just if we were to just say, oh no, we're just going to build something for the TikTok generation, we're actually going to be doing young people a disservice, because it's not good for their brains to literally just be scrolling on their phone all the time and looking at videos, and it's not good for their concentration spans. So we've got a big job on our hands, really, to reintroduce, if you like, the power of storytelling. And we think we can do that in a variety of ways, by keeping text short, by keeping them plain, as well as the more descriptive literary kind of text that we like to publish. It's about making sure that we're publishing the right kind of information, the right stories in the right way for young people today, and for adults today as well, because yes, a lot of I mean, the millennials are now kind of in their 30s, and they don't remember life before the internet either. So, it's for them as much as anyone, really. So I guess the challenge, you asked me about the challenges, the big challenge is trying to kind of get across to people that books matter. Yeah. We're not alone in that. I mean, there's some brilliant organisations out there like the Reading Agency that are doing fantastic work. And the National Literacy Organisation, the National Literacy Trust do amazing work. The Empathy Labs do amazing work. I mean, we're not alone. There's and obviously publishers have been doing this for years as well. So, we're not alone in that. We're not the only people doing that. But that's the challenge for all of us, I think.
So, can you share the pivotal moment or experience that led you to establish this innovative organization? Was it like a pivotal moment you had?
Um, yes. So I think the pivotal moment was bringing together in my mind, reading about the power that bibliotherapy has as a kind of a creative counselling option for people, the power it has to really change people from the inside out and to awaken joy in them. Um, I read a lot of papers, a lot of papers about the power of language, the power of storytelling. There's lots and lots of research out there, and I think and then trying to work out the pivotal moment. I think for me was my experience of delivering and developing digital mental health services and bringing that together with bibliotherapy. Suddenly the zing moment was, of course, this is how we make it accessible. We basically build a global digital bibliotherapy service that young people can access books in various formats alongside counselling, and we can take what we know and train other counsellors in that approach as well, and really make a difference. So I guess the pivotal moment really was that book I mentioned to you before. Because that gave me the theoretical basis, the philosophical and theoretical, clinical and philosophical framework in which to develop the service was through that reading that book. See, I read a book. That was the moment. That's yeah.
It's
Yeah.
what advice would you offer to individuals or organizations looking to integrate bibliotherapy into their own practice or initiatives?
I think I think get some training. I think find some training. We offer some training. When we work with our counsellors, we run a 10-week training program in bibliotherapy. We run that for 10 weeks, and we offer that. And we are looking to kind of maybe develop a 12-month program as well. So get trained. It's not just a question of I think it's important to have some training, some really in-depth training if you're a counsellor and how you can work with bibliotherapy. I mean, in America, of course, which is the bibliotherapy really sort of, I mean, it's been around ever since people read books, to be honest with you. But in terms of an approach, a cohesive approach, it started in the 1970s with Mary Hyman Berry, who ran a program in a psychiatric hospital, institutional. The patients were institutionalized, and she ran a bibliotherapy program with long-term psychiatric patients, and she used bibliotherapy, and she kind of wrote this really good book about her work. And of course, in the States, you've got the poetry therapy training program. There's little pockets of that across the UK. We want to be part of that kind of movement, if you like, to try to put bibliotherapy on the map as a module, as a way of working. It's a humanistic approach. It's not a kind of a it's a humanistic approach. It's a relational approach, because you're working with the client to help you're working with them as a therapist in a relational way, and then you're introducing text and writing in a relational way as well. You're getting them to their relationship then becomes with the novel or with the poem or and then you're looking at that relationship that they have with that novel and that relationship they have with their poem, because that's a really important part that I forgot to add really when you were asking me about how do you choose a text for a person. Because in reality, when any of us read anything, we reinvent it. And this is one of the things that Professor Keith Oatley talks about in his book, Such Stuff as Dreams, that when we read a piece of fiction, in a sense, we make it our own. We bring ourselves to it. So if you were to read something, you will have different images in your mind, you will have different ideas of what the character looks like, you will bring your own memory and your own experience to the text, and it will be different to mine. So we all reinvent that. Every text we read, you reinvent it as an individual, which is why just because one book might be good for somebody who's experienced grief, it doesn't necessarily mean it's going to be good for another person. You know, there are variations. There are variations in that. So yeah, so I forgot what your question was now. I've gone off on a tangent.
I think you've answered our question.
Okay, I'll be quiet. Yeah. Yeah.
In your opinion, how does exposure to diverse narratives contribute to the effectiveness of bibliotherapy interventions and the overall well-being of your readers?
Yeah, it's a really good. I mean, you know, this really important question, and it's something publishers are really quite concerned about and doing more and more about, thank heavens, every day, which is to make sure that literature is diverse so that it's not just about white middle class kids, that you know your characters come from a whole variety, or if you're an adult reader, if you read adult fiction, that your character's not just white middle class, you know, that you've actually got kind of diverse characters that you can relate to, that are from your community or represent your community in some way, and also that kind of bring in, like, as a you know, as if you're you know, no matter where you're from, if you were to read a text that is written in a really different way with different experiences to what you've experienced, that can open up so much, can open up so many doors in your own mind. It can teach you so much, give you new ways of looking at the world. I remember when I was in my early 20s, I read a lot of Latin American fiction, magic realism, and just absolutely loved sort of, you know, Isabel Allende, and because she thought in a completely different way to the way that we think in the West, you know, where everything's got a hidden meaning or a second meaning to it. And it was just mind-blowing. It just really joyful, and just really helped you think about things in a different way. And I think so it's important that it builds empathy as well. So if you're I mean, one of our writers, one of the authors that we publish is an author called Miriam Halami. And Miriam's an amazing author. I mean, they're all amazing. All our authors are amazing. But Miriam, thinking about diversity, Miriam is she talks, one of her books, which we didn't publish sadly, was a book called Hidden, which is about refugees and immigration, and that can really help a person put yourself in somebody else's shoes and really understand that experience inside out. So if you can get inside somebody's head as a character, and they live in a completely different world to you, and they've got challenges that you haven't even thought of, or they see things in a way that you've never considered before, that is only going to enrich you. That's only going to help you have the tools to imagine your own life and what you want for your own life, but also to understand others and to build empathy. And that's some of the work that the empathy labs are doing. So there's a big research project going on at Sussex University on empathy in literature. I forgot the chap's name, Batterjee. I think it's Professor Batterjee. I don't know if I've pronounced his name correctly, but he's working quite closely with the empathy labs. And it's all about how reading gives us the ability to empathize. It actually increases our mirror neurons in our brain. It lights up our mirror neurons, which allows us to see other people's experience and understand it. And in this very difficult world we're living in, especially at the moment, it's really difficult. Having empathy for each other is probably something we could all do with. You know, it's yeah. So it's yeah.
How does ZunTold leverage storytelling to address systematic issues or promote social change?
Promote social change. Okay, so well, one of the things we are trying to do is with our work, we work as counsellors, we work with a lot of young people who are and adults who have had difficult times, all sorts of kind of issues. We work a lot with trauma. We work a lot with young people and adults who've had pretty kind of bad things happen to them and have had to make difficult decisions and have had their physical health impacted as well as their mental health impacted by the environment in which they live. And as we know, the link between adverse childhood experiences and poverty and poor mental health and physical health. There's a big piece of research done by Monet and Chandler. It was an American piece of research, but it was sort of amplified by stuff that went on at research that took place at Liverpool University as well. Shows that those four things are really, really connected. And so what we're trying to do with our service is we're trying to bring books, storytelling and literature into the therapy room, into the counselling room, and to reach young people who might not necessarily have access to books or have access to new ways of looking at things through literature. So, and like I said to you before, reading enhances social mobility more than anything else. So we're trying to, that part of our social mission is to try to break some of those toxic links between ACEs, poverty, mental health, poor physical health, lack of social mobility. We're trying to do something about that through our work. Yeah.
ZunTold's commitments to tailoring stories to individual needs suggests a dynamic and flexible approach to therapy. How do you balance the need for customization with the broader goal of providing accessible and scalable mental health support?
Okay, customization. Yeah. Okay, so what we've done, what we try to do with our work is so when we think about through the stories we have, we build in exercises that we invite clients, young people, adults to do as they're reading the book online. So we build in exercises, we build in reflections, we build in explorations, and they don't have, you can switch those off if they annoy you. Some young people said they find them really annoying, but you can switch them off. You don't have to have them on. But the idea is that in your own time, you can answer some of those questions. So in a sense, the book becomes a therapeutic tool. It's not a medical device. It's not, because you can't with something artistic, it's difficult to sort of because as I said to you before, when we read, we reinterpret the text based on our own experience. So it's very difficult to make that a medical tool device. So, but it does give some structure for young people and for adults to kind of try to answer those questions and think about the text from a bibliotherapeutic perspective. And they can do that in their own time. And if they want to, they can talk one-to-one to the counsellor about it. I think it's scalable in that sort of not every person will want to talk to a therapist. They will find the exercises and the reflections enough by themselves. They also have the online community where people can kind of talk about their reaction to the books so they can see other people's reactions as well, and they'll get some support from that. But if they want to, they can also talk to their own named allocated counsellor. We offer up to 12 sessions, or some people will have longer than 12 sessions. We are very flexible. We want to make sure that the clients who've got like a longer history of trauma or who need more work, that they can have that with us. But other young people only have 1 or 2 sessions. Other people only have 1 or 2 sessions, and that's completely fine as well. So that's the way we try to do it. That's how we make it flexible. That's how we make it customized but flexible, and that's how we make it scalable.
How does ZunTold foster How does Untold foster a sense of empowerment and agency among clients, enabling them to actively participate in their own healing journey through engagement with the story?
Okay, that's a really, really good question. So there is, like I said, there is the whole thing about you do these explorations and these reflections. We're asking you in your own words to think about something within the text and to write about it in your own words. We have also got, we also kind of provide things like templates, so create therapeutic templates where we invite young people and adults to, young people to write their own life story. And we've given lots of different prompts they can use to write their own life story. And they can keep that to themselves or they can share it. But excitingly, what we have got through a little bit of fun, through some funding we got through Innovate UK, who've been amazing, by the way. They've really helped us grow the service. We got a grant through Innovate UK to create, and we're in the process of doing this at the moment, to develop a creator tool where we give you the tools to create your own stories that you too can make available for the community. So you can actually tell your own story and turn that into a book online and get editorial support and support from us doing it and share that with others. Yeah. So that's the thing that's coming next.
It's amazing. In your experience, what types of stories tend to resonate most deeply with clients and why?
Ah, that's really interesting, isn't it? And there is no one answer, to be honest with you. So it's a real mix.
Mhm.
So what we've noticed on our platform is that contemporary fiction is really popular. It's fiction that's about real people in the world, living in the world that we live in, although interpretations of that are very different depending on who you are. But it's contemporary as in based in, a recognizable universe, which is the universe we currently inhabit, if you like. So contemporary fiction, but fantasy as well is really popular, fantasy. And yeah, I mean, we try to publish all sorts of genres. So a lot of historical fiction, as well as contemporary, as well as fantasy. But I'd say so far it's contemporary and fantasy, pretty neck and neck.
How do you balance the need for structure and guidance in client discussions with the importance of allowing space for clients to express themselves and make their own meaning from the stories that they encounter?
So I guess the structure is based in the so there is structure in our program. I think you need structure to help people need structure to feel safe. And I think it is about getting that balance right. So we balance the structure. So the structure, if you like, is that we've built exercises and reflections and activities around each of the books. That's structure. Again, how you interpret those questions is completely up to you. So there's the flexibility, but we give you a structure to begin to play with. So we give you a structure and then we say, what do you think? So how would you interpret this? What does this mean to you? But the question is, we give you a question to give, so we give you something to begin with. So that's the structure. The other structure is the 12 session model. It's having a therapist. It's about having booked sessions with your counsellor. It's about being able to message them in between sessions. But it's about the counsellor's not available 24/7. You have to book a session and turn up to that session and have to do that work with your counsellor. And then you can message them in between sessions. But you have to log into the site to do that. So that's structure. And then the counsellors have on the back end of their platform, we have various assignments and activities that we build into each session. So the counsellor has some structure that they can use to give them some ideas of what kind of creative exercises you might want to suggest that the client does. But again, it's not you must do this, you must do that. They are prompts, they are guidelines. So that offers structure to the counsellor, but flexibility, and it offers structure to the client, but also the freedom to interpret it in the way that they want to interpret it, and for that to be accepted by the counsellor, because there's no right or wrong answer really with this stuff. It's whatever it is you're bringing. So yeah,
So you get as much as you put in.
yeah.
Looking ahead, how do you envision the role of discussion and reflection evolving with the context of bibliotherapy, and what opportunities or challenges you anticipate in this regard?
Yeah, okay. That was a good question. I think the discussions and the reflections will kind of change as we learn more. As we learn more and as we get feedback, I think they will change more. I think people's reactions will help us, will kind of will feed our own knowledge around how to kind of like ask the right kinds of questions or to build the right kind of reflections and the right kind of activities. Um, like in every therapy, your clients are your biggest teachers. Young people are our biggest teachers. They teach us, really, to be honest with you. So I think we'll learn from them. We'll learn from them. I think, one of the biggest worries that I had, and I know this is a worry that it's not just me, I know our team, it's something we've talked about internally. One of our biggest worries was, would the activities and the reflections feel too much like homework? Because some kids love homework, some people like that kind of level of structure. Others, it's like, oh, I'm a year 11. I've got too much on my plate already. Don't give me more stuff to do. So, we were a bit worried that for some people, it would feel too much like school. It would feel too prescriptive, which is
Mm.
why in the settings, when you're on your phone using the service or on the platform using the service, we were really keen to kind of, you can literally turn everything off. If you want to turn off all the exercise, you can turn them off. If you want to turn off the author's video, you can turn it off. You can literally just have you in the book or you and the other thing I would make to say to you as well is that we've built audio into most of our books as well, so that people who don't like reading can listen to the story. Um, so if you just want you and the text or you and the audio, you can do that and you can turn off everything else if you find it distracting. Don't have to do it. The thing about our service, you don't have to do anything. You can just come in and you can just, if you want to, you can just come in and talk to a counsellor and not even look at the books, not even do any of the writing. You come in for your one-to-one, you just talk about what's going on in your life and you have your counselling with your counsellor and it's all about what's going on in your life and it's in the here and now. And that's fine. And you don't have to do any outside reflection. You don't have to do it. You don't have to use the tools if you don't want to use them. Again, if you want to come in and you've got be given a counsellor, but you don't want a counsellor, you just want to listen to a story, or you might want to just do a reflection, or you might just want to do a bit of writing. You can do that. You don't have to talk to a counsellor if you don't want to. We've tried to kind of build in choice
Mm.
try to kind of build in choice so that people can come in and start wherever they want to start.
Looking back on our conversation, what's the most important takeaway or message you want our audience to remember?
I think choice is a big one. I'd like them to remember the choice. I'd like them to remember choice. I think maybe just don't be scared of your own creativity. Don't think it's not good enough or it's not up to speed or it's not, all of us as human beings are creative in different ways and we've all got a story to tell. And yeah, we've all got a story to tell. And however you decide to tell that story is completely fine. And come and give it, yeah, just this essentially open your mind to storytelling, open your mind to books. There's lots of varieties out there. And if a book's not right for you, or if you're given something to read or you're given something to look at and it's not right for you, it's not you that's the problem. It's the fact we've not kind of dished up the right recipe for you. So, it's up to us to get it right, really. And my other message is that yeah, that learning to focus rather than just scrolling mindlessly, doom scrolling on your phone, learning to focus is actually going to do you far more good than not.
Mm.
Yeah.
Are there any upcoming projects, events, or resources you'd like to share with our audience?
Yeah. So we're developing this creator tool. We're really excited about that. We're looking to work with more schools, looking to work with more local authorities and more NHS trusts as is an approach. But we're also looking to work with individuals who might want to come and try us out and work with us. And we've got some lovely new books coming out this year. So we've got an amazing novel by Jenny Moore called Slept-Bird, middle grade novel, lower YA, lower young adult novel, really. So sort of probably good for kind of 11 to 14, 15-year-olds. It's exciting that's going to be coming out very soon. And we've got some lovely books. Just check out our bookstore, see what you think. And the other big thing is we are going to be looking to work with other publishers as well to have their books on the platform, because we love publishing, but publishing takes a long time. And yeah, there's lots of good stuff out there that we want to make available to people. So yeah, check us out, come and talk to us.
That's amazing. Finally, what's one thing that you're grateful for today?
It was really lovely to meet you again, and lovely to be invited. I'm really chuffed to be invited into your podcast, and lovely to talk about bibliotherapy. And yeah, it's just been great just to talk to you, really, and just to have some of your questions have been great. Well, all of your questions have been very important questions to ask. So I really applaud you for the research you must have done around bibliotherapy in order to be able to ask those questions. So yeah, well done,
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for joining us for this episode.
Okay.
It's amazing that you came, and thank you so much.
Pleasure. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you.
As we close this episode, we're left with a profound appreciation for the healing power of stories and the innovative approach of bibliotherapy championed by Elaine Bousfield and ZunTold. Through their work, we've learned that literature isn't just about escapism or entertainment. It's a tool for self-discovery, growth, and healing. Imagine a world where every bookshelf is a doorway to understanding, empathy, and personal transformation. ZunTold is leading the charge in making that vision a reality, one story at a time. So, as you go about your day, remember the stories that have touched your life. Consider the wonders that are waiting to be discovered. And if you or someone you know could benefit from the guidance of a bibliotherapist, don't hesitate to reach out to ZunTold or explore the wealth of literature that surrounds us. Before you click off this video, make sure you like, comment, and subscribe, as it allows us to continue doing the work that we're doing and more. Stay iconic until next time.